This dimension looks at how societies deal with enjoyment, emotion, self-control, and quality of life. Do people feel comfortable expressing themselves openly, enjoying their lives, and showing emotion? Or do they feel they should remain more controlled, serious, and restrained? Some cultures encourage enjoyment more openly. Others place greater value on discipline, moderation, and emotional control. And this, of course, shapes how people communicate, socialize, build trust, and finally negotiate. In more so-called indulgent cultures, people often feel comfortable showing their emotions. Humour can appear quickly. Conversations become informal faster. Enjoyment is seen as a natural part of life. Work matters, but life outside work matters too. In more restrained cultures, people often regulate themselves more carefully. Professionalism may be linked to seriousness, control, and discipline. Emotions are expressed more selectively, and enjoyment is sometimes seen as something to be earned rather than expected. Over time, history and living conditions also shape these attitudes. Some societies spend long periods focused mainly on stability and survival. War, poverty, political instability, economic uncertainty in those environments, discipline, self-control, and careful behaviour often became important survival strategies. Enjoyment could feel secondary to security, and in some parts of the world, daily life is still shaped heavily by survival concerns, conflict, economic instability, political uncertainty, or simply trying to get through everyday life. Countries affected by war or people growing up in difficult economic environments may naturally focus more strongly on security, stability, and immediate survival. In those environments, enjoyment and self-expression can become secondary priorities. Of course, this doesn't mean that people lack humour, warmth, or joy. In fact, difficult environments often create very strong social bonds, generosity, and emotional resilience. In more stable or economically secure societies, there is often a greater space for leisure, self-expression, and individual enjoyment. And these patterns still influence professional behaviour today. Of course, no country sits completely at one extreme. Countries like Mexico, Australia, or many Latin American societies are often seen as more indulgent cultures. Social interaction tends to be expressive. Humour appears easily. People may separate work and enjoyment less strictly. At the more restrained end, countries like Russia, China, or some Eastern European cultures often place great emphasis on control, discipline, and seriousness. Professional interactions may initially feel more formal or emotionally reserved, and then there are many societies somewhere in the middle. Germany is an interesting example. In some situations, German culture can appear quite restrained, structured, controlled, and serious. But at the same time, people also value holidays, private life, and personal freedom strongly. The UK often sits somewhere similar. Humour plays an important role socially, sometimes even in difficult situations, yet professional boundaries can remain quite strong. And of course, these are only tendencies. Not everybody from a more restrained culture is humourless or cold, and not everybody from a more indulgent culture is relaxed or informal. I once worked with a senior leader from Spain, and during a training project, he was extremely serious, very structured, very respectful of hierarchy, very rule-oriented. A very nice person, but initially I honestly wasn't quite sure how to deal with him, because my expectations didn't fully match the behaviour I encountered. And that's important to remember. Gerd Hofstede describes broad social tendencies, but every individual also brings personality, profession, upbringing, organisational culture, and personal experience. Models like the DISC personality profile or relationship history add another layer entirely. Now let's bring this into negotiation. This dimension strongly affects the atmosphere around the table. In more indulgent cultures, rapport may be built quite quickly. People may joke more. Personal conversations appear earlier. Business dinners, social interaction, and emotional warmth often play an important role in building trust. In more restrained cultures, trust may develop differently, less through emotional openness and more through reliability, consistency, and professional behaviour over time. And this difference can easily create misunderstandings. If you come from a more indulgent culture, you might think, why are they so serious? Why are they so controlled? If you come from a more restrained culture, you might think, why is this becoming so personal? Are we still working or are we socializing now? Neither side is wrong. They're simply building trust in different ways. You can see this in attitudes towards money, leisure, and long-term security. Some societies feel more comfortable spending money on enjoyment now. Others place stronger emphasis on saving, security, and preparing carefully for the future. And here you sometimes see overlap with uncertainty avoidance as well. Some cultures feel more comfortable enjoying the present. Others focus more strongly on protecting the future. And these attitudes can influence negotiation too. Some negotiators build trust through warmth, humour, and personal connection. Others build trust through seriousness, professionalism, and emotional control. One style isn't better than the other. They simply create different expectations about what professionalism looks like. So, what does this mean for you as a negotiator? Well, if you come from a more indulgent culture, don't mistake restraint for coldness or lack of interest. Respect boundaries and recognise that professional distance may actually signal respect. If you happen to come from a more restrained culture, don't misinterpret humour, warmth, or informalness as a lack of seriousness. Relationship building may be an important part of the negotiation itself. Indulgence and restraint do not tell us who is more professional. They tell us how societies balance enjoyment, self-expression, discipline, and control. And once you understand that, you can adapt more effectively across the cultures.